Brad Gustafson. I'm an elementary principal. I have 3 elementary age kids at home from Minnesota, and one of my passions is really partnering with educators so that we can have a bigger collective impact on kids and their learning, so that creativity and innovation is really infused in their learning and not seen as something that's separate. So,
Right.
in a nutshell.
That's awesome. We had one of the participants in your first keynote. It's a colleague of ours we know from one of the school districts that we actually work with, and he took a lot with him. That's a big deal. He's a Minecraft guy, uses it in class a lot, and that was one of the big things he took was, hey, just because we think it's new and we're using it in our classroom, it could be 4 years old. So but we were also talking about creativity and the ability to take what you might have and allow the kids to use their creativity to help us learn as teachers and help them learn as students.
That's a barrier that I often see and have myself sometimes, is we feel we have to be the end all be all or the answer and be ultra creative. And I think we all have different levels of creativity, especially related to different things that we're passionate about. But in reality, if we just give kids some ownership and let their creativity shine, if we take a step back, that can be one of the most creative things we would ever do for kids. And in the case of your colleague, it might just be saying, kids, all right, we've got some serious learning to do, and Minecraft is going to be part of the vehicle that gets us there.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's exactly it. So, Minnesota, what part of Minnesota?
St. Michael.
Oh, okay, cool.
You've heard of that? Really? No.
We actually we spent a lot of time there last 2 or 3 years up there.
Oh, cool.
Jamf is a company that makes it's a mobile device development for iPads, and they're actually in Minneapolis. So we've trekked our way through Minnesota a few times. So
I'll be honest, I didn't remember.
No
I
problem. You know what's funny is there's
no idea.
there's a really large outlet mall by our house, and people, I'm told, actually drive down from Canada. It's kind of a big deal, but to us it's just kind of there, and we don't even go to it that often.
Yeah.
So that initially I thought you were going to say, yeah, it's by the Albertville outlet mall. But
So I'll get us back around. So in your school district, what's the big shining star right now? What's your big piece that's got you and your students and your teachers excited?
Well, I think one thing we're trying to do is personalize learning, not in the buzzword way, but try to figure out really what that means for kids. So from a leadership perspective, whether that's teacher leaders or principals, superintendent, part of that is going to involve amplifying student voice and really looking at what does that mean. Part of that, I think, means using some passion-based leadership, whereas it's not us, again, injecting our expertness or perceived expertness into these situations, whether they be leadership or in the classroom or a combination thereof, but really passing kids the microphone and then coming alongside them and giving them skills so they know how to use it and actually create content. That can be one of the most personal things. So I think it's more of a journey. It's not like a pinnacle initiative or anything, but it's really trying to figure out what does personalized learning mean for our kids. Again, so it's real.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing right now for most educators, assessment has gotten in the way. It's hard to accomplish what we have, all these new opportunities and all these new barriers to try to get through with students, and assessment gets in the way because now we have to jump through those assessment hoops, those standards to get through. How are you guys handling that? Are you finding that takes more time, I know, to prep and plan, but how are you guys handling it?
It's kind of how we look at it, and it's formative, so I don't want to come across like anyone in our district or school is an expert on this, but I think we're trying to look at the standards as springboards to deeper learning instead of hoops to jump through. But really, if the standards are the things that can propel us into these new and creative mediums. So for example, some of the things that we talked about today in the first session, some mathematical standards springboard us into this amazing commingling of kids creating content, video content, using drones, for example. So it's just this fusion where the standards have really new life in them because they're tools and processes that give kids ownership, and they feel relevant because they exist outside of school. Too often it feels like standards are these separated things and that they're torture to everyone, but really if our process and pedagogy is sound, it can be a really exciting thing.
Chad Morris, he's with the Spring Hill School District. He was talking about, he's hitting literacy really hard. And, he'd seen a new camera that allows the kids to do stop motion with Minecraft. And he realized, oh great, now I can build dialogue, and we can build screenplays, and we can write plots and this whole bit, and we can incorporate it in the same way. So there it is. There's that springboard we're looking for, to actually work both ways. It's a screen door that opens both ways. Is what it is.
One of the things that we're experiencing, and I know educators everywhere are, especially if they're early adopters or if they're trying new things to try to improve and grow for kids, is then you have people who are used to more traditional approaches questioning the legitimacy of a new or innovative approach. And I think that those questions are fair. We always need to ask those of ourselves. But if we scrutinize new ideas, like maybe Minecraft, more than we are current or past practice, I think that sends a wrong message too. That's not really a fair approach either. So that's just a little reflection.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
Well, to me, it's a lot like, I don't know, what generally happens with any, especially newer technology. I mean, it's been a while since I've been out of school, but I mean, I can remember when back in the day, and this will really show my age, so here we go. But I had my Commodore 64, and at the time I had one of the very first 24-pin dot matrix printers that you could buy. So before it was 9-pin, so everything looked blocky and awful. And my teachers just wigged out if I had turned in anything in that awful font. I can understand it was hard to read, whatever. But with my 24-pin, it was clearer. I mean, it looked like typewriting, and yet I had teachers who would not let me turn it in because I quote unquote cheated, because it was on the computer, not the typewriter. Like because the computer could store my thoughts, then it was not as legitimate as me just having to pour my thoughts onto a piece of paper through a typewriter, even though when it's all said and done, it was the exact same thing. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, I totally get it. And just because we as educators don't understand something doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to our students or that it really can't lead to deeper learning. And that's a powerful thing, even with the Minecraft. Just because the teacher or principal in the school next door don't get it doesn't mean that amazing things aren't happening with Minecraft as the vehicle, right? And the pedagogy thing, I think we don't probably talk about this enough at ed tech conferences. I would guess that it's really not about Minecraft or about the 24 block printer or about the drones, about whatever. It's really about those elements that we kind of hit on today. Student ownership, getting kids collaborating, having them have learning experiences instead of just memorizing or performing for a grade. That's what it's all about. And if Minecraft does it, so be it. If pencil to paper to worksheet does it, I can understand that too. And then I think we also have some explaining to do to our kids, why they're not also getting some other skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of our biggest deals for us is dealing with veteran teachers and getting them to change that mindset. That listen, this is what it's about now. Drop the worksheets, or don't drop the worksheets, but validate that for the students of why we're still doing it that way.
And to be fair, I've seen some of our veteran teachers leading the way and leading the change and inspiring me and pushing me and us more than I ever would have predicted. So it definitely is an all hands on deck thing.
Well, and I think that's one of the fallacies that we kind of fall into is that quote unquote new, younger, inexperienced teachers are the ones who are going to jump on all of this, and our more experienced veteran teachers are going to throw up these roadblocks. And a lot of times, in some cases, it's the opposite. You have these veteran teachers who are willing to jump out and throw in Minecraft or whatever else is going on at the time, and incorporate some of that stuff in their classroom. And you get some of the younger teachers who they only see that as games. Right? Why would I incorporate that in my classroom? That's what my kid plays at home, on his phone or whatever.
I have seen a good number of veteran teachers who have finally said, wow, after 18 years, we're finally at the spot I wanted to be at.
Yeah.
I was waiting this long for it to be here.
And the questions that our veteran teachers are able to ask really call out wisdom from our decision making too. So we might dive into something quickly, but they'll ask questions that take it deeper, like what about this and what might happen if this, and help me understand, clarify where the learning is in this, and that actually leads to a better product for the kids too. So regardless of age probably is not a factor in this, but it's more about the conversation, colleagues talking to one another, vetting things, supporting people as they're taking risks. It leads to really new and different thinking for kids, which actually builds everyone's capacity.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone had a wonderful experience in the keynote. The folks that we've talked to have. So tell us about your publication.
Great. So I just put out a book called Renegade Leadership, Creating Innovative Schools for Digital Age Learners. It's through Corwin. It's available on Amazon right now. And really the premise of the book is how might we apply innovation to best practice so that we're talking to kids in a manner that's relevant. And we're not abandoning things that we know to be true about education and teaching the whole child. Relationships will always be I don't know if linchpin is the right word, but if we don't have that foundation, nothing really matters. But how do we build on that foundation in a way where kids honestly can leave our doors being able to dream bigger and do more than what you and I were able to do when the tools in the world was different. I mean, why shouldn't a kid not only know their language arts standards, but shouldn't they also be able to do a killer TED Talk by the time they leave elementary school?
Yes.
I think so. So these are not two separate worlds, but just the process by how kids are learning and how we're teaching. If we're just a little bit more nimble, which I think that the book is kind of a how-to guide on that with like 30 or more voices from around education, people who have taught me how to do this. That's the end goal. So.
Cool.
That's cool.
So they can,
I am curious though, real quick. So, do you have students yet who have reached that kind of mark where they are getting up and presenting in front of their peers, but more so, like you said, kind of doing the whole TED Talk thing, where they take their maybe something that they've become expert on, and they're doing a quick talk to teachers, to community members?
Without a doubt. So we've seen our students present at the school board. We've had our kids go across state lines and present at, like, the most recent one was Ed Camp Eau Claire, a Wisconsin educator conference, and then even at staff meetings, whether it's a short book talk smackdown or presenting on how to use robotic droids. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the neat thing, the reality of the world now is none of us has to wait for TED or TEDx to invite us to go give a talk. Right. We can publish something that's really high quality right now. That's what we're imparting on. Yeah. As evidence, Jeff is pointing to the microphones. Yeah, we're doing that, aren't we? And so why can't our kids? And you know what? I'm a firm believer that it should happen in schools, because if we don't work on this with them, I'm sure you guys see this all the time. You hand a kid a microphone for the first time, and even some adults, and they just like, blah, blah, and it's silly. But what if it's such an expected experience where they walk away from being given a microphone and they really lend their voice and insight and ask really great questions and leave an impression? That's possible. And our kids are doing that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Facebook Live and things like that are really, Snapchat, it's putting our kids in that position that they're already in. They already know they're broadcasting to their friends and a larger populace. Now we just need to help them, take that tool and really carve it into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's there. It exists. Yep. Corwin, they can get the book.
Yes.
Find you online at?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Gustafson Brad. That's probably the easiest way. I have a blog. It's www.bradgustafson.com, and that's a super easy portal. But I hope you'll check out the book and just really connect. I suppose even if you don't check out the book, when we talked about this morning, but when we connect and have these conversations, and on Twitter and on Voxer, we always walk away just a little bit different, knowing just a little bit more, and at the very least having a connection where I would know that I could, for example, come to you guys with a question. So my network and ability to serve kids has slightly been enhanced just by talking to you, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it's all
And what's really cool is it's two ways. Likewise, ours has been expanded by talking to you. Yeah. So
I can already tell you
it's great.
tomorrow we're doing a session on PBL. Get your PBL on the air, podcasting from the classroom, and we're going to steal some of your stuff.
Good for you. Good for you.
No, we're going to just we will mention you, and we'll talk about the same. Some more things that help us get our point across. That this is a great way to get kids' voice out there.
On a connected note here, we have teachers doing lots of different video stuff, and we've seen over the last several years the quality of the content kids are producing has gone up exponentially. Initially, we kind of fumble through it and kids are creating longer videos, but now they're at a point where they're creating very succinct content that's focused, it's engaging, it's got quality hooks. I mean, it's really, really well done because we're in the mix and kids are podcasting. It's just part of the normal vernacular. So if teachers are looking to differentiate and personalize, for example, video is a wonderful medium.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, David. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you very much for sitting down with us and